the beginning, evening, and the morning were the first day. And so we have the first day, and we have an evening and a morning. And again, if you read in the King James, the next several verses begin with the word and so and speaks of the same time, same amount of time each day. All right, so it's a continuous thing. It's not like your fingers and toes are gonna like you know God's not gonna zap you or anything like that. But I think you just gotta look. Now, one of the things is the word day. A lot of people have the problems with. It comes from the Hebrew word yom, which what determines its usage is context. Okay, so in the context of, say, in Isaiah, he talks about a day of the Lord, and a lot of the prophets talk about the day of the Lord. That is, the end time is talking about when Jesus comes. It's not talking about a specific day or 24 hours. It's an event or a time period that comes. And so sometimes the word day is used in that context, just like it is in English. But context determines. Even we read in the Bible that there's the day of the judges. That means that was a 400-year period, and the day of the judges was a 400-year time period. So the word day is used like that, but other places, for instance, we're studying the Ten Commandments right now, right? And we're going to get to the fourth day, or the fourth commandment here in a few days. It's going to talk about to keep the Sabbath day holy. But he goes on and talks about, because the earth was created in 6 days, and on the seventh day God rested. It says that in the book of Exodus. Now, and he's saying that you have to do that too in your covenant rest with the nation of Israel. So does that mean they had to rest for 6 billion years before they could rest for 1 billion? And so again, strictly context determines where and how the word day is used. And so the word day is used like that in Exodus. It should be the same use as a night and a day. It should be the same use of that Hebrew word in the book of Genesis as well. So that's my final argument, okay, and we'll just move on, all right? And so verse 6, it says, and God said, and notice also, God said. God is speaking this stuff into existence, all right? And it says, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters, okay? And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament, and from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. Okay, we would call it sky. All right. So, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Again, evening and morning, second day. All right, another 24-hour period, one more rotation around. And I'm just going to tell you this: if God wanted to create the earth in 6 seconds, He could have done it. All right. So I don't question. One turn around the axis, and here we are. We're on the second day, and He's created the sky. He has separated the waters from the waters. So we have a canopy all the way around the earth. In between the canopy and the waters of the earth, you have something called the sky. All right. So that's where we are at the second day, and then. In verse 9, it says, and God said, there he's talking again, isn't it? Just there's power in the Word of God, all right? And so God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, okay? And it was so. All right, and God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called He seas, and God saw it was good. Now, He's not done yet. He's not done yet on the third day. Okay, but he looked at dry land, and He looked at water and said, "That's the earth, that's the sea, and it's good." Okay, and then it says, and God said in verse 11, "Let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. Now let me just say this: plant life has come to earth now. All right, and the interesting thing about plant life that we pick up in here is each plant reproduces after its kind. Its seed is within itself, and it reproduces after its kind. And we even experience that today. If Tony goes out there and plants watermelons, we're not getting cucumbers. All right, if I plant corn, it's not coming up squash. Praise be to God. All right. Okay, so again, whatever we plant, we plant corn, we get corn. All right. And the neat thing is the way God does things. You plant corn, you don't get one kernel back. All right. He multiplies. Okay. And so again, it said, and so we see that the first item of reproduction and reproducing after its kind, all right? And the earth was, in verse 12, and the earth was brought forth, and the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw it was good, and the evening and the morning were the third day, right? So we're at day 3. What do we have? Okay, we have light and dark. Okay, we have a space-time mass continuum all in there. That's day 1. And then day 2, we have the water separated. We have a canopy around the earth. We have the watery substance, and God has energized all of that in day 1, of course. But in day 2, he separates, and we have a spinning earth in verse 1. And in verse 2, he separates water from water. Day 3, we have land and sea. And then, of course, now we have plant life, and now we have the first thing that reproduces, all right? Now, in day 4, this is kind of an interesting thing. Day 4, it says in verse 14, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament, the sky, of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, for seasons, and for days and years. All right. Verse 1 said there was light. Now we get the sun and the moon. So there was light and dark before the sun, the moon, and the stars. Who is the producer of the light? God. Right. Same thing's going to happen in Revelation. Revelation, when it all comes to an end, says there's not going to be any night there. Because the Lord God shall illuminate it, is what the book of Revelation says. So what it looks to me like, things are going to be restored in the new heaven, new earth, just like they were in the Garden of Eden. Okay, so it's to me, it's just going to be an amazing time. All right. Now, again, going on to verse 14 or 15, I'm sorry, and he said, "And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw it was good. In verse 19, as always, and the evening and the morning were the 4th day. All right, so very quickly, and we're going to get on with our video, but very quickly, on the 4th day, we have the sun and the moon and the stars. We have and everything out there, planets, everything else out there is flung into space. Now, again, I want to just remind you, it's interesting to me that one day is the turn around the axis, right? That's one day. All right? A month is a whole lunar cycle, right? Okay, and 12 of these lunar cycles equals a year, okay? Or we can say 1 year is one complete rotation around the sun. That's a year, 365 days. All right, so we have a day, we have a month, and we have a year, all being recognized by looking into the sky. I want to make mention of this simply because the only place that we get the idea of a week is from God. Okay, He's the one that created the 7-day week. Okay, nowhere else, you can't tell it in the stars and the moon, other than when every 7 days, 7 rotations around the axis, that's 7 days. But God is the one that defined the week. All right, so having said that, let's go ahead and plug in our video. And I may go back there and hit a light or two. So I don't have any popcorn or no sleeping. She's got me plugged in right here. Yeah, she's not video. She's not sending it out. She's doing just sound. Okay. Whoops. I guess I got to point it at the DVD player since it's DVD, huh? Can you hear? Can you turn it up just a little bit, Allison?
Even when we were children, the stars intrigued us, excited us, inspired us. We looked into the night sky and we wondered, what's beyond what we see up there? Hi, I'm Marcus Lloyd, and in this series, we will answer some of the questions you may have asked yourself. We'll take a journey together, a journey through the universe. We'll look at ways God's creation is confirmed by science, and we'll see that the heavens described in the Bible are consistent with all we've learned about space. Today we know that there are more stars than grains of sand on this beach. Many more. But what else do we know? The stars have a lot to teach us, and they've been sharing their lessons for thousands of years. As humans began to understand the passage of stars across the night sky, they found a connection in the migration of birds and other animals, the food they hunted to survive. They learned when to plant and harvest crops by tracking the movement of the heavens. In time, they even found ways to navigate ships by them. The ancients used the motion of the stars to guide their activities, but they couldn't explain why the stars moved as they did. That part remains a mystery. What could explain it all? The answer has been right here for millennia in our one infallible guide, the Bible. Our universe is so complex, so intricately designed that it seems obvious that a supernatural power would be required to create it. Since the earliest of days, we've looked to the stars to help us find our way. As it says in Genesis, then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years." God designed those celestial lights for us, and they can guide us through space and time. All we have to do is watch their movement across the sky. Come on, we have a grand journey awaiting us. So, let's get started. First, let's get our bearings. It's not hard to do these days. Download an app, point your smartphone at the night sky, and it'll identify stars that are millions of miles away. But for thousands of years, the heavens were a great unknown. But people did notice patterns. When they looked to the sky, everything seemed to move from east to west. It's called diurnal motion.
We see that during the day, the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west, and that's because the earth is rotating in the opposite direction. Now, this is an important phenomenon because it helps us tell time. We know that the sun is in the east in the morning, it reaches its highest position around noon, and it sets in the west in the evening, and then a similar thing can be used to figure out the time of night with the positions of the constellations for a given time of year.
What we see up there helps us navigate the world down here. As we make our orbit around the sun once a year, the tilt of Earth on its axis causes a change of seasons. So when it's winter in the northern hemisphere, it's summer in the southern hemisphere. The moon, which orbits us as we orbit the sun, also affects our planet. Its gravitational pull causes the daily rise and fall of the tides. Each month, we watch the moon pass through its lunar cycle. 12 of these mark a year. But how do we mark passages of time longer than a year? The answer is there in God's design.
The rotation of the earth is basically like the second hand on a clock. It measures the fastest movement of time in the night sky. It tells us the time of day. Now, the orbit of the moon around the Earth, that tells us the time of month. And then the hour hand would be like the Earth orbiting the sun. Now, for units of time longer than a year, we need more hands on the clock, and that's what planets are. But if you could look at the solar system from above, it would all be very straightforward. The planets would orbit the sun in what appears to be circles in a counterclockwise direction.
The moon is a calendar system, and it helps us to keep track of history. There are certain episodes in the Old Testament, such as in the book of Amos, where an eclipse is mentioned. And we do have eclipse data. They are so predictable. This helps us to date some of the details of the Old and the New Testament. And thinking about the moon and the calendar, the date for Easter each year is actually determined by the moon. There's a complicated formula that goes along with that. It involves a full moon and the first Sunday after the vernal equinox. But how interesting that the date for Easter, this Christian holy day, is set by the created moon.
For thousands of years, astronomers had only their eyes to observe the heavens. There were no telescopes, no spacecraft. They studied how the stars moved through the sky and were able to predict approximately how these objects would appear in the future, but they had no idea why the stars moved. Back in the old days, most people had no idea that the Earth rotated and orbited the sun. You can't feel it happening, so it was natural to assume that the objects in the sky were revolving around the Earth. Ancient astronomers were trying to predict the future positions of planets without understanding the underlying mechanism. We were still early in our journey of discovery. In the 2nd century AD, Claudius Ptolemy, a Greek mathematician and astronomer in Alexandria, invented a model of the solar system.
Ptolemy's model of the solar system was the most accurate that had been developed at the time. He was able to predict the positions of planets and the sun and the moon with unprecedented accuracy, despite the fact that his model was really wrong in terms of its understanding of the nature of the solar system. Ptolemy's model was geocentric, meaning it had the Earth at the stationary center of the solar system, with all the planets and the sun and the moon orbiting the Earth.
Ptolemy's model also failed to naturally explain a phenomenon we call retrograde motion.
Retrograde motion is the apparent backwards motion of a planet that occurs when the Earth passes that planet in its orbit. It's a bit like when racers are running on a track and the guy on the inside track passes the guy on the outside track. Well, the guy on the outside track seems to be moving backwards, even though he's really moving forward. It's the same way with the outer planets. They seem to go backwards as the Earth passes them in their annual orbit.
Even though it wasn't right, Ptolemy's model made accurate predictions. It would be used for over 1,000 years. Further progress in astronomy would have to wait for a cultural revolution in scientific thinking, the Christian worldview. The brilliant mathematician Freeman Dyson once said, "It is probably not an accident that modern science grew explosively in Christian Europe and left the rest of the world behind. 1,000 years of theological disputes nurtured the habit of analytical thinking that could also be applied to the analysis of natural phenomena. The idea that the human mind can explore and understand God's creation inspired many great thinkers. Science, after years of slow progress, started to flourish, and by the 16th century, it had kicked into high gear. And that's when Nicholas Copernicus came along. It is my loving duty to seek the truth in all things, insofar as God has granted that to human reason." He suggested a different model of the solar system, one that would have stunned early astronomers.
The Copernican model of the solar system was a leap forward in astronomy. It was superior to the Ptolemaic model, first of all, because it was closer to the truth. Copernicus's model had the sun at the center of the solar system and the planets, including Earth, orbiting the sun, rather than Ptolemy's geocentric model. Now, one advantage of this is that it naturally explains retrograde motion, the fact that outer planets seem to move backwards from our perspective on Earth. Well, that makes sense because Earth is passing them in its orbit around the sun. The Copernican model wasn't accepted by everyone right away. And part of that was there was a philosophy at the time that everything worth knowing had been discovered by the Greeks. Ptolemy was revered almost as deity. And so when the Ptolemaic solar system, which had the Earth stationary, people thought, well, that has to be it.
About 30 years after Copernicus died, a fellow named Johannes Kepler was born. And he really helped open our eyes to the true nature of the solar system. As a devout Christian, Kepler believed that God created the world according to a plan we could understand.
God himself has waited 6,000 years for his work to be seen.
Kepler grew up in a home where he had a single mother because his father had gone off to war and had not returned. He spent many years studying for the ministry and wanted to go into the ministry. He realized early on that the Bible provided a foundation, a firm foundation for science, and the creation that he saw around him had order and structure to it.
Kepler took a job teaching mathematics, and that led to a career in science.
The chief aim of all investigations of the external world should be to discover the rational order and harmony which has been imposed on it by God, and which he revealed to us in the language of mathematics.
Kepler expected to find orderly laws of nature because the mind of God controls all of nature. His Christian convictions led him to discover the 3 laws of planetary motion.
Kepler was able to figure out that planets orbit in ellipses, not perfect circles, but a sort of a squash circle, with the sun at one focus of the ellipse. That's the first law of planetary motion.
Kepler's second law says that if you take a line and you draw that line from the sun to the planet, that line is going to sweep out equal areas in a given amount of time. And because the orbit is an ellipse, that implies that when the planet is close to the sun, it will be moving faster, and then when it's farther away, it will be moving more slowly.
Kepler's third law, which he discovered later, was that the period of a planet around the sun is related to its average distance to the sun. In fact, the period squared is equal to the distance cubed when you use the correct units, and this works not only for the Earth, but all of the planets in the solar system.
And if you think about that, that is a genuinely amazing accomplishment, and these laws are still valid today. NASA still uses these laws when they're sending probes to other planets.
Kepler's discoveries 400 years ago moved us further along on our journey. He helped astronomers predict the positions of planets with unprecedented accuracy. For the first time, they began to understand the structure of the solar system. Later, scientists would refine Kepler's laws. In the meantime, a new invention was about to change the science of astronomy forever. In 1608, a Dutch eyeglass maker named Hans Lippershey patented a device that could enlarge the appearance of objects by as much as 3 times. A year later, an Italian astronomer and mathematician named Galileo Galilei heard about Lippershey's invention.
The Holy Bible and the phenomena of nature proceed alike from the divine word. God is known by nature in his works and by doctrine in his revealed word.
Galileo started his own experiments with lenses. Within days, he had built a telescope.
Most serene prince, Galileo Galilei most humbly prostrates himself before your highness.
The military uses were obvious.
This spyglass has the advantage of discovering the ships of the enemy 2 hours before they can be seen with the natural vision, and to distinguish the number and the quality of the ships.
The telescope changed everything when it was invented 400 years ago. Up to that time, people only used their eyes to look at the sky, and that's still a great way to enjoy the sky. But to do the science, you really want to use a telescope. And once it was invented, Galileo was the first apparently to take that newly invented telescope and look at astronomical bodies. And he saw some remarkable things.
He documented what he saw. He analyzed what he saw.
And he wrote about these discoveries in a book called The Starry Messenger, which he published almost immediately after seeing these wonderful things in the year 1610.
The moon is not robed in a smooth and polished surface, but is in fact rough and uneven, covered everywhere, just like the Earth's surface, with huge prominences, deep valleys, and chasms.
He also pointed his telescope at Orion's belt and the Pleiades, these wonderful gems that are mentioned in the book of Job in the Bible. And he saw that they contained countless more stars than you can see to the naked eye. And they're very beautiful just to the naked eye. You can imagine how they look in a telescope.
I have depicted the 6 stars of Taurus, known as the Pleiades. Near them are more than 40 others.
Then he turned his telescope to Jupiter and saw something really amazing, something that no one had ever imagined.
He noticed 3 small starlets, very small but very bright, and perfectly in line with Jupiter's equator. And he thought, that's kind of odd that those would be lined up that way. But what was even more strange is when he went out the next night, he saw that their arrangement was different. Their positions were different relative to Jupiter, and he couldn't figure out how that could possibly be because he was thinking that those were background stars. But then the next night and the next night and so on, he continues to watch these things, and he finds that they are circling Jupiter. These are moons of Jupiter. Now, at that point, no one had considered the possibility that other planets could have moons. There was just the moon.
I had now decided beyond all question that there existed in the heavens 3 stars wandering about Jupiter, as do Venus and Mercury about the sun. Also, I measured the distances between them by means of the spyglass, using the method explained before. On the 13th of January, 4 stars were seen by me for the first time.
Back then, people thought there was only one moon, the one we see from Earth. No one dreamed that other planets might have their own moons. Some still believed in Ptolemy's geocentric model with the Earth at the center of the universe. But Galileo's discovery of Jupiter's 4 moons proved that not everything orbited the Earth. His later observations of Venus showed beyond all doubt that the planet was moving around the sun, not the Earth. For many, it must have been hard to conceive. Not only were we not the center of the universe, but the Earth orbits the sun just like all the other planets. You know, I think we take it for granted today, but back in those days, Galileo was challenging a very widely accepted scientific view. Now, some Christians embraced his findings, but others did not. Some Roman Catholic authorities labeled him a heretic. This is someone whose views are in conflict with the church's teachings. See, they believe that the Bible teaches a geocentric solar system, contrary to Galileo's observations. But Galileo believed that the Bible was silent on this issue.
Cardinal Caesar Borronius said, "The intention of the Holy Spirit is to teach us how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go."
Some church leaders still insisted that the heliocentric model contradicted the Bible. They cited passages to back it up. Psalm 93:1 says, "Surely the world is established so that it cannot be moved."
The question is, what does that word moved mean? Does it mean that the earth can never have any motion at all? Or does it mean something different? And there's more than one word in the Hebrew vocabulary of the Old Testament that has the idea of motion. But this particular word, interestingly, is directly related to another word that shares the same root, a noun, motah. The verb is mot, and the related noun is motah. Motah is routinely translated yoke. So it has the idea of an orderly relationship that is designed to make motion orderly, as in 2 oxen that are yoked together and are pulling a plow to plow a field. It's not that the oxen are not moving at all, but they're moving in an orderly way. They're not chaotic in their movement.
When Galileo saw these moons orbiting Jupiter, he realized that that is proof that not everything orbits the Earth. And that led him to believe in the heliocentric model of the solar system that had been proposed by Copernicus and refined by Kepler. Planets indeed orbit the sun.
During a series of trials held by the Roman Catholic Church, Galileo was ordered to stop teaching heliocentrism. Galileo spent the rest of his days confined to his villa near Florence under house arrest. But unfortunately for his critics, the cat was out of the bag.
You know, I've had the same kind of experience as Galileo. When I look at Jupiter in a small telescope and I see those 4 little moons dancing around it, it's just a delight to see the clockwork motion that we see in the heavens imposed on it by the creator of the heavens. Jupiter's delightful because it never looks the same twice. It's got these wonderful cloud features on it, belts and zones, and sometimes storms will develop on them, and there's the great red spot that circles every once in a while, and so it just never looks the same twice, and it always looks majestic and gorgeous. When Galileo pointed his telescope up and saw these things that no human being had ever seen before, he knew he was onto something. He knew that astronomy was going to blossom into something that was truly remarkable. He was seeing the glory of God revealed in a way that no human being had ever imagined. And he speculated that the telescope would bring even more discoveries in the future, which of course it has, as we've built bigger and telescopes and with better equipment and so on, and we've peered deeper into space. We just see the glory of God revealed in ways that our ancestors could only have imagined.
Progress in astronomy went from a slow crawl to an explosion of knowledge almost overnight.
Over the past 400 years, technology has improved a lot, and so today we have far better telescopes than Galileo could even have dreamed of having. And that allows us to see much farther, much deeper than we ever had before. Even amateur astronomers now have telescopes that are better than many professionals just a few years ago. I'm sitting here in an observatory with a 36-inch telescope, a fine instrument. At one time, not long ago, it would have been a world-class telescope. But we've had an incredible amount of improvement in the technology.
Think about it. With just a good pair of binoculars, we can see almost as much as Galileo saw through his telescope. And he only saw a tiny fraction of what we can see with equipment like what they have here at the Mount Wilson Observatory. And yet, with that telescope, he changed everything. The contributions of Galileo and Kepler changed how astronomers viewed our place in the universe. We were no longer the center of it. But still, no one knew why. Why do planets orbit the sun? Why do they move in ellipses? Why do the ones further from the sun orbit slower than those closer in? Christian thought suggested that there had to be a reason, an underlying force that explained all of this. But in the 1600s, no one knew what it was or how to prove it. It would be up to another creation scientist with biblical thinking to solve these riddles. Join us next time as our journey takes us still deeper into the universe.
Everybody still awake? So I want us to look next week on the why, but I also want you to be thinking about this. This is all Christian scientists that are discovering these things. They looked into the Bible, and when they looked into the Bible, it sent them on a quest for more knowledge, not so that they could disprove God, but so they could stand in awe of God. And that's what I want you to take some time this week, even just to, if you have Google, if you have an AI program or anything, just really start thinking about the why everything turns the way it does. And we'll come back and we'll watch the why next week. Does that sound like a plan? Okay. Can everybody see that okay? Was that all right with everybody? All right. Well, we'll just kind of continue with our setup then for a couple weeks. Anybody got any comments or anything hit them today that said, "Wow, I didn't even," it wasn't that fascinating? Yeah, that was fascinating. I didn't either. Yep. Anything else struck you?
They were kind of not rebels, but they were kind of rebels because everybody else believed.
Well, the idea of geocentric means that they thought the Earth was the center of the universe, and if you believe something different, religion would persecute you. Okay, and so again, it science didn't disprove Christianity, or that there was. It just stood in awe of the fact that God created and created with design. One Kepler or whatever his name, they put everything towards mathematics. Like mathematics is seen all over the universe and outer space, down to the smallest cell. It's just amazing how God put everything in order the way He did so. Anything else strike anybody? Just saying, wow, yes. Yep. That's unfortunately how evolution is taught more. It's okay to teach evolution, but to actually teach creation science in a lot of our schools across America are just, fortunately, we do have some teachers, and some is beginning to accept or give you equal time in some cases. But yeah, you're right. We were to always keep, but most of these fascinating discoveries came from scientists having an inquisitive mind based on what the Scripture said. And so, to me, that is fascinating. That's the thing that really strikes me.
Those men that were talking about God, not the narrator, but each one that he interviewed was talking about God in the Bible.
Yeah.
They were PhDs in physics.
Yeah. I'd listened to these guys. I've actually been to a seminar with these guys speaking, and you think I got above your head last week. These guys are something. I mean, they're able to make it understandable, but boy, they are something. Anyway, this is the International Creation Research Group, ICR. They have a museum down in Dallas. If you're ever down there, go to the ICR museum. It's, I think, only been open for less than 5 years, but they've got some pretty fascinating. It's just about want to take a church bus and go. Let's go. But anyway, somebody pray about that. All right. But anyway, it is rather fascinating. Now, what we'll do is we'll watch these about space. We'll take about 4 weeks. Then we'll kind of hit the rest of the 6 days of creation. Then we'll come back and we'll do kind of a series on created in His image. And then if you want to, we've got a series on where did the dinosaurs come from? Okay, if that's something you're interested in, it's pretty fascinating. So anyway, do you think there was dinosaurs?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. It's fascinating, and so we'll look at that, and that I believe part of those videos kind of go along with Noah's flood and some of those things. So, all right, any other comments? Or I hope when I watch this kind of stuff, it makes me just appreciate and just stand in awe of God. I mean, it's just, and it also makes me grateful that men of science were years ago that the idea was to discover what God had put together. Today, it's something in a lot of cases completely different. Okay, science and Christianity is kept separate in a lot of minds, but they don't have to be. So, yeah. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and stand. And you get out.